You couldn't even got me for 80 cents. Yeah, he gave me full time. So that's why I take it. He wouldn't let you have it? No, let me see twice.
So skinny.
Yeah, but then it starts coming on.
Is that what it
Randy would call it rheumatism. And she's explained the trade common cold. Common cold took 2 weeks to go away. So when you took the rheumatism, you only took
14 days. No, I just wondered. I found that spot. One day Now, if I'm going past and I don't see nothing, I go to the calendar. Make a
About 6. Unless they know something I don't know.
Back out, gentlemen.
You want to say something about some of the code? I was going to ask him if anybody had any questions so far on anything that regarding the biggest issues about money, politics, sometimes plays into this. We were talking briefly today about fees. Some cities collect a fee. When receiving a certificate on a fire escape, they collect a fee, $100. Some cities have fines and fees for not complying of thousands of dollars. hundreds of dollars per day. So there's, that can be discussed and looked at. But does anybody have anything specific as far as a question that maybe he can answer, that is of how internally these two things will jive with each other, whether it be through the maintenance guys, through the fire guys, and into the, does anybody have any questions? Jerry, yes?
No, you can address it though, right?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that, you know, that was talked about was the fact that if it is a required means of egress, okay, when you're in some parts of the city, as we were talking about earlier, which is an old city, there's a concentration of these that have to be in good repair. You know, so that's, you know, when it comes down, Robert asked about a TCO or a CO. You know, be a good project manager. If you know that that's the second required means of egress, don't address it as they're, you know, getting ready for a TCO. That should have been addressed right up at the beginning, because again, OSHA requirements, building code requirements require that that building is being worked on. You need those required means of egress. Okay? So make sure that you're addressing these systems, you know, and also with the property maintenance. You know, this seminar generated out of the organization contacting, you know, the director of operations, and so, you know, there's a thought that, you know, maybe the department should have some kind of program in place for these types of egress systems. So we might not do something today, we might not do something in the next 3 or 4 months, but the department may have a program for these type of systems. Again, it might be fee generating, it might just be, you know, for the general overall safety of the city. So, just because we don't historically focus in directly with these, Martin, is this something, you know, on fireside that you see? I mean, is it something that, you know, you want to comment at all?
If we come across it, we write it. And that's basically the
Right, so it
fire-
does
it's not
become part of the
maintained.
general inspection.
Right, yeah.
Right.
It's
So,
not
I mean,
maintained
it's something that
right.
it's not like we don't, oh, no, we don't do anything about that. You know, if it's evident, we're looking at it, obviously, we should write it, we should let the owner know that it needs to be a good repair. But today, now we're armed with a lot more information, we're able to effectively do that. Through the plans examination process, we're going to determine those required means of egress. Now, if it's something that is already in place, and it's not required,
But
then,
they use it because it's recessed like this was.
or, right, yeah, something, you know, something like that, if they're going to utilize it, it has to be in good repair. You know, that's for the building inspector to take a look at it. Now, if it's not in good repair and it's not going to be used, as a building inspector, what tools do you have to be able to put in place that that's not used?
Well, usually it'd be contractual services, contractual, they take care of all the unsafe and dangerous guards.
Yeah, but Perry,
How
how about if it's part of a building permit process? It doesn't go to the contractor.
I'm saying if it wasn't a requirement.
Right, that's right.
Good point. If you're out there doing an inspection, you see something that doesn't look like, you can always require that in the building, and it's quite unsafe conditions. Basically, you get a certification for it.
But nonetheless, a violation should be generated, and then let it be redirected to the appropriate field. Yes, Doug?
Maybe you already answered this, I couldn't hear. If there is a fire escape, but it's no longer required by code for whatever reason, it's still there. You either have to seal it, and they don't want to use it. They either have to seal it off or address it, and they have to address it, correct?
Is there any other,
The
that's what I was trying to get.
rule in the nation is use it or lose it. So if it has any possibility, and the only time that really gets to stay on a building is when I call it the hysterical committee is involved, and it's part of the look of the building, and they don't let you take it down, but they have met the second means of egress inside. Every window must be blocked with metal. You can still let the sun come in, but you can't get access. A lot of times they remove the first or second floor of the lower fire escape, so the firemen can't even get at it. And all the floors that up to 7 stories get a big placard that the firemen understand that not to be used. And it's part of their pre-plans on the fire department, basically saying, even if we go to that building, we know we're never gonna find anybody on the fire escape, and we can never, with our equipment, get on the fire escape because it's a decorative item. But even that decorative item must be assured by a structural engineer, not to have pieces falling off and concrete blowing down below.
All right, now back to you, Brett. That's how he does it. How does Philadelphia do it?
Well, as far as I know, we haven't really run into these situations. Again, that's why we're here today, to see how we can obtain some best practices from other jurisdictions
No,
and incorporate them for what department license inspection.
obviously, I'm not with L&I, but what I used to do when I was third party or stayed in New Jersey, whatever, I said, your biggest enemy is your insurance company. And then I would make a phone call to the insurance company.
But New Jersey's got a pretty stringent system.
Yeah.
New Jersey is the toughest state in the nation.
We teach through fire prevention, all this is handled in fire prevention instead of
Unless they don't-
But let me tell you what we have, what's going on here. This is gonna take 3 to 5 years to get going. So it's not gonna happen overnight. You need some simple triggers, and we actually need volunteers. The way this works is, you pick one person that really wants to learn about the fire escape, and that's the go-to guy that every time anybody has a fire escape issue, you refer it back to your fire escape coordinator. One guy in the fire department, one guy in the building department. Any volunteers? Well, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a volunteer, because all we do is we educate one person. And every time you have a fire escape issue, you always go back to that person, and that person just basically helps the next person move on. And on a case-by-case basis, you basically say, here's the problem, what have 4 of my other states done just like it? And we say, okay, they do, this is what they do. You will then contact fire officials or building officials in those states and say, here's my issue, I was told you did this, well, how did that work out? And then from there, and that's what takes 3 to 5 years. It's sort of like, don't make everybody address the issue, make everybody says, oh, you got a fire escape issue, you got to talk to Al. So Al is going to be contacting you as to what needs to be done. So you continue doing what you do best on that building, and Al's going to call this guy, and Al's the bad guy. Al's the guy that talks about load test. Al's the guy that, and just drop Al down, drop a name, make it Bob, find the name of it. But you really need to have building department and fire department together. And I'll tell you, the automatic that nobody has to change anything for tomorrow is add to the end of your checklist to close a permit. Just add, I need a copy. You're not ordering a load test. You're ordering a copy of your current certification on your fire escape system. That's all you're asking for. When they say, what, I've never seen one, you order one. It's still 30 days away now, that whole process. So for the building department checklist item, to close a permit, I need a copy of your affidavit and I can close this permit. You're still going to let them occupy the building. You're not stopping the process. You're just saying, in order to finally close this, I need a copy. Now that's when people, if they drag their feet, fines, fees, penalties, and whatever, for that part. Your fire guys closing the smoke detector is the final, isn't it? Before they let you in, a smoke detector sign off? Add to the end of that, I need a copy to submit my paperwork back to the fire department. I need a copy of the smoke detector sign off and a copy of your second means of egress. Because when the smokes go out, where do you go? To your second means of egress. So but if someone doesn't have one, you still sign off the smokes. You don't stop anything. You still sign off the smokes, but now you send a referral back to enforcement saying what about that residential or commercial building or institution or church? What are you saying? Or daycare? They don't have enough. And so it comes back to you for the daycare, and what do you do with it? You give it back to Al. Say, Al. Otherwise, you working with Al, you start handling these on your own. So what do I do here, Al? You do this, great. And then all of a sudden, 3 to 5 years, this is when, and then you have a public hanging for Hal, because basically.
Yeah, the only time we'll address a situation like that is if we're called out and it's an action that happened.
Perfect. And on that with facades, this is the 7-story plus facade guy. Do we have to mention farescapes in any way on facades? It's already inclusive with the flagpoles and the baskets and everything else.
Me personally, I would say yes.
Well, it's pretty evident. It's right there in your face. I mean, it's a what do you call it? It's a structure.
I mean, you know, being in other cities, you know, I mean, Chicago's a big city that has, you know,
They have the same
escapes on the facades, New York. Philadelphia, I mean, I can't think of many buildings that have it on the front.
Yeah, a lot of them are in the back, but just so you know, the facade inspection, and the 5-year green card in New Jersey, that's how they pick up these fire escapes, and they have a facade rule in Chicago and New York. So these are getting picked up. Are they getting properly inspected and properly load tested? The answer is no. Are they getting these opinion letters? Yes. Is it time to change? It takes time. Got it? So, yes, question.
But aren't you guys seeing permits for fire escapes to be installed for personal care homes, because the state's still requiring it?
I haven't
haven't?
issued a permit for that. Has any of the claims examiners seen anything?
That's a great question. Let me throw it.
Not fire escapes, they're just outdoor stairs, basically.
Metal stairs.
Metal stairs, but they have landings,
Two different issues.
they have landings and they go to the ground.
Right, but they're not fire escapes, they're going to actually be the required means of egress.
Right.
So we have the typical mom and pop corner store,
Right.
and we have the residential, you know, that is not a fire escape, that is
That's what the
required
stairs, I see
means
what you're saying, right.
of egress stairs. The geometry, the width, everything has to meet the requirements of a stair.
Right.
Everything changes with this. But it should still have the same issue.
Yeah.
Maintenance, you know, proper geometry, guardrail, all those things apply to stairs themselves.
Let's hit it, and I'm going to show you a ton of examples of exterior steel wooden stairs. This is about a maintenance issue, and I'm going to talk about new stairs right now so that everybody's clear on the code. These can be maintained indefinitely on any pre-existing structure. So I don't have to bring it up to code. It was already built to code, but in the 30s. You can now make me put 42-inch rails on a 36-inch. You can't make me take a 24, make it 36. This is a pre-existing structure. You cannot force me to upgrade this at all. You can force me to maintain it and load test it or provide you other evidence of strength. Done. Now I get to a building and the third floor is an apartment and needs a second means of egress. Normally, all new construction, you cannot build no fire escape. So the law is very clear. All new, brand new, dig a hole in the ground. You can never put a fire escape ever in your life on a brand new building. But all pre-existing structures, after you've exhausted all possibilities of putting a second staircase inside, after you've exhausted the lot line issue, because fire escapes are not an addition, because they're not enclosed, so they don't, you know, so fire escapes become your solution to every existing mansion, tower, warehouse, factory, barn, outhouse, you name it. If it has a second floor to it, and they need to get to the ground because somebody's gonna sleep up there tonight, you have to make a brand new fire escape to the code. And the code could be, in certain cases, 24 inches wide, sometimes down to 22, 8 and 8 rise and run, complete to the ground, out a door, all the way to the ground, with stairs. In some cases, you're gonna run into a situation where out a door, stairs, and then into an alleyway, we got no room. Yes, a ladder is coming. Even though the code says no ladders, you've exhausted every possible means, so you would have to throw a ladder in there, because on a case-by-case basis, a ladder is gonna come. A spiral is coming. But if they have a backyard the size of a football field, no ladders, no spirals, no holes, and got it? So these guys ain't going away, because when you take a mansion and you make it into 4 condos, guess what the answer is? That mansion has a beautiful central stairway in the middle of it, and there's 4 wings with 4 condos. Guess what's coming? Now this is a fire escape. Now sometimes you have a fire escape and there's a confusion in the law about egress. So sometimes when it's a means of egress, it doesn't look like a fire escape. It still comes out a door, but now they want to cover over it with no sides. Sometimes they want 7-Eleven rise and run because it's accommodating a hall of some side. And they don't want grading like this. They want diamond plate on a case-by-case basis with a kick plate so that nothing will. So on a case-by-case basis, it's going to be, look, will a fire escape satisfy this means of egress? Or do I really want it to look as close to an external stair with a covering, but if I enclose it, it becomes an addition, and the lot lines don't let me, so I build this half hybrid monstrosity, right? But they're there. They're going to be built every day. Because as long as you keep old buildings, fire escapes are the answer to some of the craziest solutions. But on pre-existing fire escapes that are there, you can't modify. You can make them change it when you get there, and they've never pulled a permit, and that thing was shoehorned in there 40 years ago, it was wrong, yeah. One of the craziest ways to, you know, to really knock somebody and say, you're right, let's take a look at the building permit and see when they pulled a permit for this. And if they never pulled a permit for an existing fire escape that's there and it's kind of all goofy, guess what you're gonna make that guy build? Brand new fire escape to today's code. Out a door, down to a roof, across a catwalk, to the end of the roof, with a staircase to the ground, and if that staircase needs to be a cantilever because there's a sidewalk there or whatever, it's gonna be a staircase, not a ladder. And every fire escape that we inspect that has a ladder that ended 8 feet off the ground, that didn't have the rest of it, it fails the inspection. It needs to be continuous to the ground. Right? So all three codes basically tell you what? If you don't give me other evidence of strength, what do you pull out of your back pocket? So that's, what's the ugly word of today? Load test. Why? Makes people just smarten up. Say, what do you mean load test? Oh, you go read it in the book. You're not going to like the word load test. But let's talk sensible, because, you know, whether it's this facade inspection, whether it's this triggered inspection, we got a lot of ways to trigger it. Don't forget your health inspectors. Can anybody fill in a piece of what is the code on the health inspector? Any health inspectors in here? Can you, everybody pretty much has, is there a health inspection side of it that does those inspections for, you know, the mold and the cockroaches and stuff like that? Is that,
Al, wow.
Al?
Al,
Just so you know, that guy it can ask for the certificate also. So on these apartment re-rentals and stuff, I don't know, usually that's handled by health, housing. If you get housing to add a checklist, right? So housing adds a checklist that in order for them to okay the housing, they need a copy that the fire escape has 2 means of egress, right? It's just a checklist item. He doesn't come back with one, does he stop the housing rental? No. Well, what do you guys get? A referral that says what? Nothing's going on. Your computer automatically spits out a letter that takes how long to respond to? 30 days, right? 35 days. And then what happens? The meter starts running. Fines, fees, penalties. So that basically, if every fire escape in the city has a potential $1,000 fee generation or fines generation, how many do you want to just basically identify? Right? So if you go out and just identify fire escapes in your first 3 years and just let it ride, what are you going to collect in 3 years? Because people need to refinance, people need to remortgage, people need to buy and sell, people need to re-rent, people need to pull a permit. And when you try to pull a permit, you've got a blemish on there from the fire escape side, what happens? It'll get resolved at that time. So a lot of this is identifying the fire escapes in your city. Here's in your book, you have the tag of the conference. So if you want to have one of these, go to seattle.org, go online and download. This is PDF or Word document. Erase the city that's on the top of your city. There's an industry standard, fire prevention approved confidence test. But if you call us, we'll send you one, and we'll do the work for you. We'll put the name on the top. Otherwise, we'll send you the PDF or the Word, and you can modify it to your heart's content. Got it? Now, we did this also in Tacoma, and Tacoma came up with something that we loved. So they come up with a yearly inspection. So the 5-year inspection is by the registered professional, but guess who does the yearly inspection? The owner of the building, the management company. So when you have yearly inspections, this is hilarious, because there's only 3 questions that they get asked. Bolt supports are not damaged or rusted, so that's pretty simple, right? It looks pretty good. Paint is in good condition, and that all the moving parts are operational. So windows open out, the doors open out, and all the components of the fire escape work, right? So when you show up for your yearly, because anybody can sign that represents the building owner or the building, right? Here's the best part. The fire guys will love this one. You basically say, hey, I'm here, I need that document. The guy goes, oh, here it is. The guy goes, no. I need you to go to the roof, climb over the gooseneck, come down to the fire escape, walk all the way down, release the cantilever, hit the ground, then sign it when you give it back. What's that going to do? What's this yearly do? aside from this 5 year. The 5 year is the professional confirming that it's all okay, but what's the yearly do? Makes the owner aware, because who tests the fire escape? The owner. The owner has to walk up to the roof, climb over the gooseneck, come down the fire escape, release the ladder or the cantilever, and have it hit the ground and do what? Come down and sign it. And if they say, well, you know, I'm not sure. And that will happen. Okay? You guys like the 1 year walkabouts here? All right. This is the state of Oregon. Took, as you said, 5 years to finally get because during a code change. They address everything here: load testing, scraping and painting. It's all here. So if we're in the midst of any code changes that you guys are aware of, anybody here have state connections? Well, you know, people in the state, you know, people at the higher level of different things, and you know, what I'm basically trying to say, some of this needs to be walked through and up the pipeline, but it can't be by me. I don't know a lot of these people, but I will work with anybody in here that says, hey, I know a guy, or I know a state guy, or I know somebody of influence that I think this is very important. Believe me, it may not take me to come in the door, but I can go in and explain it. But if you can open the door, we'll help you get this. And a lot of times, this is one state down, 49 to go. This is not the perfect one, but it's damn close. It's 95% there. And what do they require when you read all this? The tags, the confidence test, load testing. They sort of started spelling out. They didn't really change the code. They clarified it in this amendment. And what did they end up on? Checklist confidence test. So they want opinions anymore from engineers? Or they want facts? So if you get an opinion letter, can you send a copy of the confidence test back to that very engineer who just issued an opinion letter to you? Say, hey, thanks for the opinion letter. Can you please fill out this form? And he tells you this is not a state form. What can you tell that guy? And a state-approved form. Can you ask him to answer the questions on that form and put it on his letterhead? It's an industry standard documentation with certain wording in there that will guarantee to me that you've done a professional inspection. Otherwise, if you wish to piss me off, what am I going to order? Load test. Right? And you tell them, do you really want a load test? But if they're going to disrespect you, what are you going to throw at them? Load test. And can they load test it as is? No. The guy says, you know what? Yeah, I'm just yell. Well, I want to witness this one. And before you do the load test, I want to make sure there's no the fire escape is ready for a load test, because it's got to pass the confidence test. So what we did is we started this. So on this document doesn't have any of our information. I would put City of Philadelphia. If you're a registered professional, this is what you got to read. If you're a repair guy, you got to pull a permit, and with the report that this guy gives you, you got to follow the directions. Are you watching any of this work getting done? Are you concerned at all? Because who's watching the show? Who's the sheriff? So this guy does all the work as per this engineer, and then do you go there and sign off, or does the engineer sign off first and then you go sign off on the permit? So the engineer signs off on this job, issues a confidence test in lieu of a load test, then you go there and sign off what? The permit. And when you go there to sign off the permit, two things happen. You confirm that the work was done correctly. You could also confirm that the work was done incorrectly and that the engineer was what kind of guy? An idiot. And when you start yelling on the way out of there, you bring a can of spray and you start writing on the walls. What do you write? What do you write? Load test. Graffiti up. And this is the painting guys. You need a permit to paint? No. So, but EPA says what? That's older than 78. Anybody have one fire escape in the city that's older than 1978? It all has lead. And they say if you don't properly scrape it, so all these contractors went out and got and paid $300 to the EPA. They took an 8-hour course to get a license called a renovator's license. And they're supposed to put a plastic down, scrape the fire escape down, wear the white suits, collect all the chips, properly dispose, that's called. If you don't do it right, what do you get? A fine of how much? $35,000.
What's the tower wash?
$35,000. You have to collect all that water, believe it or not. when you power wash, you have to create a little pool, collect all that water, then now dispose of all the water. They're insane. Guys, these are tags. These are tags in Seattle. They're 19 inches wide by 11 inches high. That's what they want on their fire escape. That's a tag, 7 to 10 feet off the ground. They're not on the second or third floor. They're 7 to 10 feet on the fire escape or permanently affixed to the building. And what do you read on there? Who did the work? Who was the licensed guy? What the licenses were, right? So this white tag tells what the fireman in the middle of the night going down an alleyway full of smoke. Good to go. You're gonna get on it, right? Fire towers. This fire tower wasn't used till the day I inspected it. And it's kind of the funniest things, we get all these fire towers, these training centers, and guess what they have on all of them? Fire escapes. And guess what condition the fire escapes are on? Now that's kind of ironic, isn't it? Firemen getting hurt on their fire towers. But and by the way, on the inside, they basically throw hay and they burn stuff in there and they waterlog that thing like crazy. So the inside stairs are always metal. And all of them are full of rust, guys. When I inspected this thing and I hammer tested, look what happened. I shut it down that day. Do they have money? Do they have money to fix these things? So that's another problem now. Now you just shut down one of their training towers, but you've also stopped a casualty, and that needs to be addressed. So fire guys, you guys have any training towers, we can help you. We do a lot of free tower inspections over in the area. Let's take a look at rust. This is on a home for veterans. How much rust you see there? See, the war didn't kill them, but the fire escape surely will. What you get rust poisoning from when the fire escape gives way. Trucks smash into fire escapes all the time, guys. This is farm all hammer testing. This is a city. This is a housing complex. That's the city hall. See the treads missing? This is Rusty. When we got Rusty, Rusty was 4 feet wide. So we cut Rusty in half, and we made Rusty portable so we can bring him to shows like this. And then we started doing things to it that everybody does anyway. So when you look over here, and you start looking at all the rust, this was buried in the ground. And the ground just ate the feet. Now children from kindergarten to 8th grade were using this every day until the Christmas break. Okay? So the most important part that I want to stress is it's got lead, because you can see the orange base. It's got rust in every connection. It's got welded joints, it's got welded connections. So we basically did things to it to prove that you can do a temporary repair on it. And this temporary repair, if you were to load test it, would pass this year. But the next time you're going to load test is in 5 years. So in 1.5 years from now, what's going to happen to this welded rust is going to do what to it? Open it and snap a weld. If you put rust, you got a rusted connection, you put a bolt in there, believe it or not, the bolt will last 10 to 15 years as it stretches, but it'll finally get, but a weld will snap within 1 year. So that's what we did, see? This is basically showing all the things you can do wrong with rusty to basically show what everybody's out there. So can you weld fire escapes?
Yes.
Temporarily. Does that make it certifiable or functional? Can you weld fire escapes today?
No.
Why? Because of the lead. 98% of all the fire escapes in the country are bolted fire escapes anyway. Welded fire escapes never last because as soon as water gets behind there, it basically starts eating the weld from the inside out. So how do I avoid x-raying or load testing that weld? What do? Put a bolt in it. Seal the joint. Now you basically encapsulate it. It's all about connection management. Fire escapes over here never rust. They rust in joints. Wherever there's a joint, wherever material has been disturbed, it stops rusting. That's the first place it's going to stop. But if I came in here, I would put a bolt on both of these, because it looks like, even though I've got surface rust, I've seen no internal rust trying to bulge this thing out. As soon as I put 2 bolts in here, I can satisfy the city official and say, listen, out of the reference to strength, I re-bolted it instead of re-welding it. Okay, well, you couldn't weld it anyway, and the bolt will mean that you don't have to load test it. Got it? So, a lot of times, if you go on the YouTube channel and you type in Firescape Academy, and you type in Firescape Repair, downtown walk around, usually after a class like this, we would go downtown and do a walk around a block, and we videotape it. So if you go online, there's probably about 500 downtown walk arounds from all over the country. And you can just watch us walking around with a group of 10, 12, 20, 30 guys, and we just walk down alleyways and we record people now inspecting fire escapes from below. Looking for what? Square head bolts, looking for rivets, looking for rust and blowouts. Do you ever have to get on it? And if all of a sudden this fire escape was pristine structurally, but it looked like this rust-wise, what violation are you writing? A maintenance violation. Maintain it. After they maintain it, what do they got to do? After they paint it, what do they got to do? Even though it's a pristine, structurally well done fire escape. You got to load test it, or provide me other evidence of strength, and I come back to you and say, the fire escape is 15 years old. There's no rust in any connection, and usually you're concerned about load testing things that are 25 plus years old. She's only 15, here's the permit that was used to make it, back, was properly engineered. May you accept that? On a case-by-case basis, you choose. But as soon as you get anybody that is just giving you a hard time, what do you throw at them?
Hell.
Before and after. So the kids used to come out of the fire escape, rusty, and this is what we put back. So, out of school, French. It's actually a Catholic school that they rented to a French school that did that they taught French kids that come from America that stay with their parents here. But as we talked about, rust just keeps growing. And the reason why you're never going to get on a fire escape again is why? Do you all carry the 3-pound hammer with you? Because what happens? You got time to do that? Pretty good swing, right? A 3-pound hammer. Ready? Rutgers University. This is a slide pole fire escape. The only thing that can make this worse is putting it on a fraternity, which I cannot confirm. Right? And you have 2 means of egress. You can choose left or right. You go down head first, or has anybody ever seen a slide fire escape? No? I'll show you one. So guys, just as a reminder, live load test happens every day, and this is what you're worried about.
Right now, firefighters are taking down the ladders and rolling up the hoses. But earlier in the night, when they pulled up, there were flames coming out of the side of the building. Firefighters say it was one of the scarier moments, because when you pull up to a building and you see children and mothers hanging off the side of the fire escape, smoke swirling around them, that's scary, scary stuff. They got up there, they got the ladders up, and they said nobody got hurt.
The fire escape, there was 3 or 4 people hanging off the fire escape. They couldn't get off. They were just on the fire escapes. I had people hanging in their fire escapes at the rear of the building, and on this side of the building, we had a bunch of people on that fire escape.
About 50 people were displaced inside this building. Our firefighters say there's good news tonight. It looks like everybody will be allowed to go back in, except the one unit where the fire was in. They said, that's good luck to them tonight. I'm Bob Wilson, on the scene of Bridgeport.
Bridgeport, Connecticut. How many of you got buildings like this in your areas? Got it? They all have to be certified. Otherwise, what's the main reason? Now let's take a look behind the scenes. These things are always tied into something. You got your veneer, and then you got what it really ties into, which is the masonry block wall behind. So if you got water coming in behind your veneer, what's it do? Rust it out. Why do you load test it? To confirm this, right? So, but if you don't want to do the load test, how are we ever going to find out what's hidden? Because a lot of times they look beautiful, beyond the brick, but behind the brick they look like this. All right? So, what are we doing? I mean, how, if we're not going to load test, how are we verifying this? There's an answer, right? Because this happens every day. Water gets in the parapet wall, comes down behind the veneer, eats all the, what do we do? To give you an answer, I gotta give you other satisfactory evidence of strength. I got a 75, 100-year-old building. I think this may be happening behind there. I don't wanna load test it. So what I'm gonna give you is I'm gonna give you a brand new connection. I'm gonna let sleeping dogs lie where they lay. I'm gonna give you a brand new through bolt or a brand new epoxy bolt, or I'm gonna run an angle clip the whole length of the thing and then mechanically fasten and pick up all my structural outside and throw in 12 epoxy bolts or 12 through bolt plates or whatever, and basically keep this hidden, because I don't care about it anymore. So if they're good, I'm going to be at 200% of the requirement. If they're bad, I'm going to be at 137% of the requirement. Because the new connection did what? They gave you other evidence of strength for you not to load, not to order what? So that's the answer. 97% of this fire escape is outside, and you can get a good opinion on it as to whether somebody's doing the right job for you or not. But the 3% of it hidden in the wall, that 100-year-old wall, that 75-year-old, do I really care about the connection? Do I really want to open up all those holes? Can I just give you another alternative? Because it's going to cost me $500 for the mason to open it up and then reclose it, but $75 for me to put a through bolt in there or an epoxy bolt, which is cheaper for the client. And which one does not disturb the building? So most through bolts, to avoid the load test, you duplicate them, you don't repair them. You repack the outside. See what you got to do with just to basically open it up and verify this is in California. Before we load test it, we have to verify the connection. You know how many holes you got to drill to basically open up a big enough hole so I can put my camera in there? Why don't I just take the same hole, 5 to 6 inches away, another 3/4 bolt, put an epoxy bolt in there, mechanically fasten it back. Are you satisfied with other evidence of strength? Can I leave the original one alone? Otherwise, this is what it looks like when you're peering down the hole with that little camera. You know what you see? Nothing. This is me looking down a hole. What am I looking at here? So you can waste time, you know. But basically, it's our job. Our job is to verify that what you can see inside, is it good or is it bad? So you need to verify the unknown in the building. This is the fire escape that we load tested. Now this is various types of load tests. You can load test with sandbags, 50 pounds at a time. You can load test with water bags, 50 pounds at a time. You can also load test by putting the weight at the ground and running cables up the thing, and load test each fire escape by keeping the weight on the ground and pulling down. This is one of those where we lifted the tail of a truck. This is the truck we use, and we ran the whole thing. And that's basically lifting the tail of the truck. And that little monitor that we have there, once it reaches 3,500 pounds, we stop. It's a 7,000-pound truck. So you can use various ways. This right here is a load test that, you know, and I've been in this field for over 40 years. I'm young for 72, I know. But I got dragged into this. My dad is still in the business today, but I was dragged. I'm 52. My dad dragged me into this when I was 11. You know how many load tests I've been in my life? 6. And the majority of them were in California. My first one ever was 2 weeks ago in Cambridge for Harvard University. And I forced it upon them because I said, listen, let's take a fire escape of yours and let's leave some bolts behind. Because I purposely want to do a load test to show people this is all the sandbags. Got it? All right? 5 guys.
So now we're loading onto a stair. We're doing a concentrated load of every other tread, 200 pounds.
See that?
Hey Tom, he's about to start it. You want to note that?
5 guys all day long, and every fire escape gets loaded, you know, 40% of the load, then 100% of the load, and then you got to keep moving bags and bags and bags. How many bolts did we change that day? How much paint did we apply? And God forbid this wants to give way, because sometimes there's no way to load test to throw a bag on it other than doing what? When I'm cherry picking it and dropping it, it's like, you know, the stick that broke the camel's back. We're doing it. So how often do we want to load test things? No, we don't. Okay, this happened in Jersey. We were again, we become experts in fire escape awareness, and so a lot of times the fireman actually hurt himself. There was a woman here, 3 treads gave way, he fell through, landed down below, climbed back up, saved her and her kid. By the time it was all said and done, and the adrenaline wore off, he basically shattered his vertebrae or whatever it was, and he was what, 27 years old. Uniqueness about this case is that this wasn't an occupational incident. He sued the owner for negligence. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm out on disability, I'm going to have, you know, no. He basically said he had not maintained this fire escape for over 25 years. So because the owner didn't maintain the fire escape, he sued it and he won. He won the case. They settled. When we went there 3 years later, we basically examined the fire escape. That as we were walking up, pieces started falling. The 3 that he fell through were perfect, but everything else, they did nothing to. So the case, but because of the case, we had to put some things together to show the history of rust. Let me tell you how this rust works. When they built it in the 1900s to 1930, 2 pieces of metal, unpainted, got together. And they either got together with a rivet, they got together with a bolt, or they got together with a weld, but primarily bolted connection. So that, here's the reason why things are bolted. When they heat up in the summer, they do this. When they cool down in the winter, they do this. As soon as you weld anything and it heats up, what's it do? Don't move, but it rips and it tears welds. Because it's got to go somewhere. So that's why everything in the United States that's a fire escape, 95, 98% of everything is bolted because it's got to move around. But when it moves around, what's it do to the paint that was on it? It cracks it and does what? Introduces air and water. So when air and water comes in, you're supposed to do this. So there's the first time in the first 5 to 10 years of a fire escape, that's naturally rusting. You're supposed to come here and clean that out and repaint it and keep it sealed because she's doing this all the time. How many people do that in the first 5 to 10 years of a brand new fire escape? So in the next 15 to 25 years, what happens is because you didn't do anything, you left it alone, water got inside the connection and it started creating rust. And the rust started basically pushing your fire escape apart. Creating what? It started eating what? It started to eat your rivets. After 25 years, the rust is so big and the rivet is so small and it's so far apart from the fire escape, if you step on it, what happens to you or the firemen? Fall through. And that's what happens on all fire escape connections. It's only a matter of time that if you introduce rust, it'll grow, separate, pop the bolt, pop the rivet, pop something, and then you drop to the ground. And that's what we found when we got there. This is the day of inspection with lawyers and firemen and building inspectors there with us doing the inspection, 3 years after the fact. So this is how fire escapes, this is all the components of a fire escape. Not many people know that the fire escape only goes into the wall 8 to 12 inches with cement. And then it's through bolted on wood structures. We'll cover that. When a lot of times, as time goes on, cement gets porous, things start popping, things start pulling in. You introduce a lot of water. You start growing ferns. You start growing mold, trees. Rust. That's 1 inch of rust on a library. If you're growing any exotic ferns, this is the place to do it. And then you got fire escapes that have lakes to the ground. Lakes to the ground means it's supposed to be sitting on a proper foundation. Sometimes fire escapes get hit by trucks. A lot of people just fix the veneer. They don't have to fix the full thing, you know what I'm saying? This is the through bolts. Cantilevers. Let me tell you how cantilevers work. You're supposed to come down to the fire escape, and once you're there, push it, because it's single action requiring no special knowledge. You release the cantilever that weighs 25 pounds more on the nose, because it comes down by itself at 2 to 3 feet per second, hit the ground and stay down. By the time you get to the pivot point, the fire escape's already in a down position, you self-evacuate. Firemen show up 1 minute, 10 minutes, or 1 hour later. What do? They use the same staircase to do what? Go up and fight the fire escape. Let me tell you what happens today. A woman that's 150 pounds, child 50 pounds behind her. A lot of times these fire escapes, when they get out of balance, or they don't have the release arm to lock them into position, and they get heavy over here because water's getting into the weight, what happens to the nose? Does it go down or up? It goes up. As soon as you walk by a building and the fire escape nose is pointing to the sky, what are you going to write? Violation, right? So in order for you not to write a violation, what do? How do I fix that cantilever that's out of balance? I go to Home Depot and I buy a chain and I take it here and I tie it where? Anywhere. Make it horizontal, what will you never write me? Violation. So any fire escape you see with a chain on the tail, is it balanced or unbalanced? So the release arm, the woman gets there and she's dragging a kid behind her, and somebody added weight to this thing because it's unbalanced, and she pushes it, and as soon as she releases it, does it go down? No. So she goes down to the pivot, dragging her child. She walks out here, 3 steps. Does it go down? It's out of balance. She's got all the weight in the back, right? She goes another 4 or 5 more steps. What happens? She comes down 2 to 3 feet per second or 5 to 10 feet per second. Hits the ground, slams. Everybody starts crying. She either gets ejected or she holds on, screams, falls back, grabs a kid. Then she goes down to the very tip. She's 150 pounds, it's on the ground, she steps off with a 50-pound kid behind her. What do you got? Cantaloupe? Not cantaloupe, catapult. With troubrochet, right? Isn't that the French word for that thing where they car? So that's why that's a lot of cantilevers are out of balance. And that's the main problem, because once the child is up 10 feet in the air, what's the mother want the kid to do? Will the kid ever jump 10 feet? The mother tries to go in the front door to go back up. What is she wearing? She has the keys with her? The fireman shows up. Says, hey, let's go in the back alley, let's get your kid down. The fireman shows up, looks at the kid and tells him to do what? Kid does what? Fireman runs back to the truck, gets the pike pole and does what? Grabs it, pulls it down. Fireman puts his foot on it. Child reunites with the mother, they go away. What's that fireman do now? He has to sit there and hold it, because what's the other fireman doing now? They're going up the thing. So what does he have to do? He has to hold it on the ground. You just lost 1 fireman in that firefight. So that's what happens with cantilevers. Here's a release arm. Open. Does it do anything? You see the chain on the back? Fire escapes get hit by trash trucks all the time. This is a hotel in Chicago, 25 stories. The staircase. This is me from the ground shooting up, looking at one of the stairs on a 25-story hotel. They got rust, falling treads, smashes, crashes. Now, all I'm doing is right now, I'm going quickly through this so that we can, and we got grading. That's those spacers in the grading does what? Keeps the bars all 1 inch on center. As soon as those blow out on the inside, what happens to your foot? Goes through it and traps you. So those are irreparable. You can't get in there. It's a school in Jersey by the ocean, elementary school. How much rust?
Too much.
Ladders. California has this slide ladders a lot. This is called an accordion ladder. It'll expand up to 25 feet. So they usually have a lot of these hanging out over a sidewalk. When you release them, they unwind and they basically go up like an accordion. And it's a stiff ladder. But when you crank it up, it keeps it all nice and tight. So these are all typical ladders that you've seen. Now, can ladders end 7 to 8 feet off the ground? It must be complete to the ground. So what happens when I find one that's incomplete? What's the violation? It's incomplete. So it must be complete to the ground. So another ladder next to it to make it a guillotine and drop the rest of it down to the ground. That ladder can be made into a fold out so that half of it folds out and makes it an 18-inch wide ladder. You can also make it so that it's a balanced ladder with cables. Goosenecks over the roof. So man, this is a fireman, but they need to be inspected. Some people have taken ladders where they've actually cut them in half and folded it back into itself. Is that legal? Can I let a ladder swing out and when it comes down, it pile drives anybody on the other side? If I can slide it, but I can't make it loop out and hit somebody because wind or anything can make that basically go out, hit a child, hit a fireman in the head. So people have modified ladders. Okay? Cantilevers. This is a cantilever in Chicago. But for the sake of speed, I'm gonna. We talked about what needs to be done when you're basically dealing with a fire escape. You got to start a program. This is 3 to 5 years that's going to take. This is some of the classes we've done down in Washington, D.C. and various places. We talked about that the 3 codes basically already got your back. You didn't know that the 3 codes. So if somebody's attacking the fire, if somebody's attacking the building department, who's going to come to their rescue? It demands the same load test. Fire. If firemen are getting blasted, the building department can show up. NFPA. What about OSHA? OSHA says you can. So we got all these confidence tests that exist nationwide. You have a confidence test here. If you want to copy one, copy Seattle, copy Tacoma, copy Portland, copy Newark. It's not that anybody has one. There was never one ever, and there isn't a standard. The only one right now that you can say sits on some book somewhere right now in Portland, Oregon, on that checklist. So it's a matter of not that you need to change the code. The code is pretty clear. All the authority having jurisdiction shall accept by load test or other evidence of strength. Do we need to clarify that anymore? We can do departmental procedures and guidelines to clarify what that means. This is the Boston one. To the best of my information knowledge, I believe. Cities outside of Boston are incorporating these tags. I mean, the confidence test. Is Boston incorporating the confidence test? Not yet. So why is that? Why is sometimes the major cities the last to do it? Politics and money sometimes. That's exactly what it is. So here's the tag. Here's the confidence test. You can get it right off the internet. We talked about the yearly inspection, which is going to be really important. We talked about Oregon. Let me show you some, and then again, if somebody says, well, it's not a state document, well, then Oregon has a state document now. The tags, this helps everybody. This helps the tenants know that the building is safe. This helps the firemen do whatever they have to do, and this lets the building inspectors walking around and say what? That you're out of compliance. Same way you say that your elevator's out of compliance, the tag is out. This is our code, 1001.3, all exterior steel wooden stairs. Have we mentioned fire escapes yet? When you look at your code, you're going to find that even though we're having a fire escape class here, you know what the code really belongs to? When you read the code in its entirety, does anybody here have the code, the building code? Do you have it? Can you check? Can you check 1000? See if you're 1001.3. Are you this IBC or ICC?
IBC.
Yeah, check it. Check 1001.3.
Fire code.
Oh, it says to go back to the fire code? So it used to be in there, and basically what I was trying to make as a point here is that all exterior bridges, we talked about fire escapes yet? Steel or wooden stairs. Talked about fire escapes yet? So all those porches on the back of a building, all those decks. Remember how many people died in Chicago on the deck failure? Isn't this the code that covered it? All exterior bridges, steel or wooden stairways, fire escapes, egress balconies shall be examined. So the code, we're talking about the tip of the iceberg here, guys. Just fire escapes. You know what's below that? All exterior steel or wooden stairs is covered by this code, which references back to the fire code. So with that being said, is this a steel wooden stair or a fire escape? We don't know. Steel wooden stair or fire escapes? Steel wooden stairs, balconies, Romeo and Juliet balconies, do these need to be examined under the code? Hotels, those exterior walkways in hotels, motels, they need to be examined? Rear porches, rear hangouts, or we call these bike collectors, or Coke can depositories? Barbecue storage facilities? So these need to be examined as per the code, all exterior steel wooden stairs? So these need to be examined? These need to be examined? Is it exterior steel or wooden? Does it need to be examined and certified? So this is the tip of the iceberg, right guys? Rusty is the tip of the iceberg. Where are you going to start? You going to start with the iceberg or the tip? Start with the tip, because the rest will come. Let's start with the tip. This will have the most impact. This is the biggest. People are at least. Oh, what? Right. You're asking, is it okay? Well, yeah. All fire escapes must match the building type. So can I have a wooden fire escape? If I have to match the building type? Right enough. You're getting there. But if I have a fire escape, and it's exterior, I need to examine it. Can I have a wood fire escape as well as a steel one? If I match the building type. And can it be 5/4 wood, or does it have to be 1.5 inches? Must be fire rated, 1.5 inches. Some decks that get built, some fire escapes that get built, they get built to deck code or fire escape code? Deck code. So we catch a lot of those that somebody built a deck that also became, that is also part of their egress, and we can't load it to 100 pounds, so they have to beef it up. And a lot of times it's double up to 5/4. And whether or not the decking that you're talking about is fire rated, that's a question for the fire department. But either way, it has to be 1.5 inches of the same material. These need to be examined. These handicap ramps, do these need to be examined? How about tanks and fertilizer tanks and industrial locations that have spirals along the outside? Those need to be examined?
Not by, we don't have jurisdiction per state. Any agriculture or type buildings, we don't have jurisdiction on them.
So they're just free ride? It's all, I'm dealing with industrial. Industrial, it's all industrial, you know, going up the tanks, climbing up the side of factories.
Whether it's a refinery, whatever the case, if it's something we don't do, then that company has their own people.
On the fire escape. So here's an example of an accident that occurred just recently. So here's the time when these come into play. How about the catwalks on signage? Billboards. How about bridges, private bridges in some of the universities? They have these private bridges over. They have these private bridges over brooks that they own. The state doesn't own them, but the institution has these little babbling brooks and these little bridges that cars go over. So they need to be examined. Hospitals have walkways, and some hotels have these walkways. So those need to be examined. All exterior steel wood stairways, bridges, they need to be examined.
Yeah.
Look at all these ladders and fire escapes. This is a good one. Somebody takes a Home Depot ladder and installs it. Right? So how do you stop this person from trying to grandfather that in? What's missing here so you know what to look for? Even if this was possibly going to get grandfathered in, what's missing by the window? A platform to feed this ladder. The second thing is this ladder, right? It needs to have a release mechanism, but the guy says you pull on it and let it go and she slides down. Right? But do you think he pulled a permit to put this ladder on? Do you think that this apartment that came on the attic is a legal apartment? So he basically, to make that a legal apartment, he threw this on and, you know, he did something better than nothing, right? So if there's no permit on file, what can you do to this ladder that the law says you have the right? And so this window becomes to a platform to a stair, to the ground. Any ladders involved? No more ladders involved. So he can keep it. Obviously, he's dealt with zoning and whatever to make this a legal three-family and pay his three family taxes and all that stuff, right?
I'll never.
Spirals. Spirals, they need to be load tested? Are they a means of egress? So if you have one, you need to load test it. Anybody ever see a slidescape? This is Elizabeth, New Jersey. This is the only slidescape I've inspected in the nation. 12 stories. I'm up there. This is us on the roof with the fire department. And this is up, and it comes down like this, right here. See this centerpiece right there? You come down the corkscrew, 12 stories, and then at the very bottom, you take a left hook and you shoot straight down the kid's slide, and your feet hit a paddle with your feet, and an iron door opens up, and you tumble into the ground.
Oh, that's awesome.
Every floor has one staircase aside and an elevator. This is an Art Deco building. Slidescapes were in your book for the longest time that you could build slidescapes.
How many tickets for that, Ron?
Well, I'll tell you how they get tickets on this one. But there's little doors like this, and this is what you look into when you open it up. No lights. All right? And the door was frozen shut, so we had to send a fireman down. Do you think they sent the newbie down or the newbie went down on the road? But then, actually, from the first one, the second, third floor, we went down and opened and kicked open the door. But that's what you look, that's what you're doing. And there's a little door inside the door. It's a jump. Now, here's how they sold tickets on this. Years ago, the maintenance of this building was heated by cold. And because the local parochial school used to, one of the things you had to do was break into this building and someone go down the slide as a rite of passage for a lot of kids, was to get into this building and basically slide down this fire escape. So one of the guys that was a fireman there, he said his grandfather used to run the maintenance part. To stop the kids from doing it because they're all white dress shirt, he used to throw coal dust down the chute, and then just wait to see who was the culprits were. So that's what he did. So the only slidescape. But look, slidescape used to be a standard on a lot of buildings. They got rid of all because you used to be able to just jump out and slide down. Primarily, a lot of military facilities used to have slidescapes. Nobody does them anymore. It's illegal because it's a one-way system. You can't go back up. These are augment. This is additional above and beyond. You got these rope ladders that sometimes these guys have out of us. This is not an improved means of egress. It's an augmented. Right, so you can buy these online for like $75 to $275. You keep them in a bag, you keep them by your closet. When in case of a fire, you throw it out your window and you go down. But it's not an approved means of egress. But you can have them, but it's not an approved means of egress. Got it? They also have these ladders that you buy from Jambi. And basically you go out, see this person out the window, and it looks like a drain pipe when you close it and you hit it, and it opens up. And then you climb down. It's not an approved means of egress. So some homeowners are buying these things and putting it on their second to third floors on average and calling that the means of egress, and it's not. So whenever you find these can be a third means of egress, they can never be your second means of egress. So you can have as many of these as you want, but as long as they don't make up your second means of egress. Okay? So whenever you see these bags and fold-outs are not. Now, I can have a fold-out that's part of a system that had a platform and they had a fixed slider and they moved it to a fold-out, yes, because they had a pre-existing condition with a fire escape, got it? And so as you can see, spirals do come into play, full staircases to the ground. Now here's a advanced version of what's coming in some of your high-rises. Now, most of the fire escape systems out there are the traditional fire escapes, but there is a third means of egress, and that is in two types. One is a self-evacuation chute, And the second is a three-story building evacuation system.
So if you live in a high-rise building, you probably at least wondered how you would get out of there if there was a fire. Those fears became all too real for thousands of Americans. On September 11th, many were trapped in the World Trade Center towers as the floors below them burned. Well, now inventors are working on new technology to help people get out alive. Ari Arthur has a look at one invention. Right, come on.
And down he goes. Looks simple, and it is. The Recover All high-rise evacuation system being tested on this day by firefighters.
We have 50 stories. Get inside, bring your kid inside, your dog inside with you. Mount it on the windows, smash it up, jump out. It can be a two-way system, so as it goes up and down, it basically is. In some cases where the fireman can't get you out going down, they gotta go to the roof.
Which eliminates the fear of heights. The first step for evacuation is putting on the big suit. Kind of makes it look like a baked potato, but this actually protects you from heat and flames if you're in a real fire situation. But firefighters let us go for a test ride. You've got one of these machines on your condo balcony ready to use, or your high-rise office stored away for an emergency.
I'm ready to sit me on. I want to see that.
Once you push back and let go, the machine raises you gently to the ground at the rate of 50%. The ride is smooth all the way down. You never speed up, you never slow down. It's all the way down to the ground. So the obvious question of everyone's mind is, would this system have made any difference?
Better than the ladder? Right. Now that's $2,000 to $4,000 per system. It's $2 to $4 million per system.
Sounds like a Medicaid. Get a pass.
This is controlled by the fire department on a typical 25, 50-story building. 2 to 4 million. This is an actual unit built in Israel, 20-story building. The guy who invented this used cruise boat technology. A load of things at the same key you run into the ground. It's got collapsible elevators. Basically, when that arrives, they're going to put firemen into the building. And then put people out of the building using the same thing. So you're evacuating 5 floors at a time. And you're putting firemen into the building 5 at a time. There isn't one of these in the United States. Why? There isn't one. Politics. It isn't proof. This is in Israel. So as you can see, not only is firemen going in, firemen helping people get out, and for some reason you can't get out. The 2 means of egress in their building. Somebody can't get out. So then you get trapped above a certain point, you can't go down, you would use these systems to get people off the roof because there is no other helicopter fleet. So, every high-rise, New York had one of these, including the towers. We do it for an hour. Come down, they have to go up. This is why you get people out of the top. You do it self-evacuation back and run the system. Guys, we got 15 minutes. We got 15 minutes, and let's talk about, just what we talked about just all now. So let's just recap what you're going to do to basically, get this fire escape and start a program here in your city. We'll be right there. The most important part, if you want to write this down and pass it on to whoever needs to hear this. Does everybody agree or disagree that there needs to be a checklist at the end of every permit? So just write that down, whoever you have to sell that to, just say, please add a checklist. Whether it's on a board, whether it's on an actual document, or whether you have documents and you need to pencil it in yourself, ask for a checklist. You ask for a copy of the certificate. Are you ordering a load test? Are you ordering an inspection when you ask for a copy? Are you even going to go back there and look at it? When the guy says, hey, come with me, it's in great condition, I've been keeping it up. Do you want to go back there? Say, no, I'm glad, I believe you, just give me a copy of the certificate. Right? So is that gonna hurt anybody? Because again, this is all about identifying fire escapes, not starting trouble. So you ask for a copy. Is one gonna show up that day? So 35 days later, what are you gonna get? If you don't get it in 35 days, what did you start? You started the meter. That meter could run for 6 months or 6 years. What's attached to the meter? A fee, a fine, whatever you want to call it. This is where it starts. So now let's talk about that's just on your guys. We're going to have somebody assigned. Are we going to have a volunteer from the department that's going to basically be the Al? Who wants to be Al, the fire escape guy? Or Rusty, the fire escape guy? We need a Rusty fireman guy. And the only reason we need one guy is just that all of you guys have somebody to go to when all hell's breaking loose, because there's noise coming. Why should noise come to every one of you? You guys just basically took a permit process that you work through and a thing that you do, an inspection that you do, and a fire escape situation came and you handed it over to who? Hand it over to Al or Earl or whoever's going to be, and what are they going to do? They're going to handle it on a case-by-case basis with you, or take the heat for you in case, you know, so that way you can continue on or about your business. Right? So now, that's the first step, because it'll take 3 to 5 years for this to get going. Once you get that part of it going on the permit process, you can't close your permit until you have a copy of the confidence test. You can still close the permit for the building, for the building, you still close the permit for the contractor, so they can all get paid. You're not stopping anything. But what are you not physically doing? You're not closing the file. It's an open permit situation, and you will slowly deal with this as time goes on. Fire department, what are they going to do for you? How are they going to get you more referrals? What's their trigger?
Annual inspection.
The annual inspection and signing off on what? Smoke detector. Just ask somebody, does anybody here know who the counterpart's going to be at fire prevention, so that at the smoke detector inspection, they ask for a copy of the certificate getting done, what do they refer back to you? It's a referral, it's a violation referral. And you send that out, how long does it take for that to come back? 35 days? But what starts out on it, if you don't get nothing in 35 days, what started on it? Fees, fines, right? So that's the fire department. What about the health inspector? What's he going to do for you? He's going to ask for a copy of the certificate during whatever inspections he does. Because if he doesn't get a copy of those inspections, what's he give you again? Referral. That makes you do what? Inspect, because he can't enforce. The enforcement is on your end, so he's just saying, I'm supposed to staple 2 papers together from now on when I do my thing. This one is an incomplete one, so he still does his job, still completes, but that's a checklist item. So that helps you guys do that. Then we start talking about confidence tests, tags. This class is one that's, once you start writing violations, what's going to come the next 6 months to a year is actually another class with engineers and contractors in the class to teach them what? How to do it correct, how to inspect correctly, and how to prepare correctly, because and submit the proper paperwork, because you guys, every fire escape you get is going to be a guinea pig. You know what I'm saying? And who's going to handle it for you? Who handles all issues? It's Al. Just give it all to Al and let Al run it. And Al will basically take and get the support or non-support, but Al and his counterpart at fire prevention, they basically are going to take the long walk down this, because it's going to open up a few cans of worms, and there's going to be some political blowback. But whenever they attack, they have to attack 3 codes. They can attack the building department because it's a code issue, but when they attack the fire department, what is it? It's a life safety. What do firemen, what do politicians hate to touch? Life safety. When you mention babies and dying firemen, what happens? So, as you're delicately dancing that delicate dance, saying, hey, you know, it's not really me. I'm going to be fine with this letter that I'm getting from this engineer. It's really the fire department that is ordering the load test. Can that ever happen? But if I may, in the code it says that you guys are dealing with the inspection, but then it says, see the fire code. So this, right. So So it's back to the fire code saying, oh, a load test, so now you're interpreting two codes, am I correct?
Yes.
So I'm just hoping, I don't have an answer here, I'm just telling you guys what's coming as far as, and that's why this is gonna take 3 to 5 years. This is not gonna happen overnight. But if you are interested in it, and you can go online and type in fire escape inspection, fire escape repair, fire escape seminars, and you're gonna basically see downtown walk-arounds and what to look for. And if only one of you out of here basically starts writing a violation, how's that gonna differ from the last year here? If one of you is writing a violation. It's 100%? Yeah. No, it's gonna start it. Will it finish? No, it's just the beginning. Once we get this as a point where you guys are just moving along, but make it natural triggers. We also talked about one of the last pieces that I want to leave, and I want to see if you have any questions, is OSHA. How does OSHA, even though it's not an enforcement entity, what is OSHA doing to anybody that's an employee of any company, institution, and city, municipal? What is OSHA saying that that person is required to have if they're going to occupy any building? So when you're doing construction and repair, what's the first thing they're supposed to be focused on before they start working on that building for a year? And if it's a $100,000 problem on that big monster 10-story, what do you tell them? What's the alternative? Temporary scaffolding, and they keep on going. How about temporary repairs? Got it? So let's open it up. So let's open it up to some questions. If you guys have any questions, we got about 5 minutes left. We want to be out of here by 3:30. Does anybody have any questions? Agree, disagree? Looks like I got the buzzword going, right? I think their speeches. I think they got hit hard.
All right, I went downstairs and I talked to Ralph, the Petro, Director of Operations.
Not out.
Not out.
So actually you have an hour.
We do have an out. Hurd was correct in his approach that under the facade ordinance, if there is an unsafe condition, the majority of it, all that work goes to contractual services. So, but if, that's correct. So they're not tied in to the facade maintenance ordinance unless they're on a facade. And, well, or actually, but the thing is it doesn't, so even though it's not spelled out what the impertinence is, whether it's a Juliet balcony, whether it's a fire escape, whether it may be, and I can think of one, 1218 Arch Street, which is a historical building, is the AIA building. I actually, as a plan review, I did ask for certification of the system. I wanted an engineer's report on the integrity of it, and guess what? The permit got pulled. And then they did come back and they did submit, and I walked down there not too long ago, and noticed that whether they had a permit or not, I don't know. So with that being said, some of the things we're going to take away from this very intensive presentation is that, we're all working towards our accreditation for IAS. And I said to Jerry James about the fact that for the development side, we should maybe have some kind of work instruction based on how to approach this, whether it's the required second means of egress. What's the occupancy? How do we deal with these fire escapes? And also, we report back to Ralph and see about getting an IAS report, work instruction for that side of the department. Yes, Doctor.
At the very least, you can attack this from property maintenance.
That's right. And with that being said, right at PM 307, that whole series, it's in there. It's like Ragu. It's in there. All right? So, you have that power as property maintenance, C&I inspector, what's the title now? Code enforcement inspector to be able to write those types of violations. So it's there. I think this is something that we do, something that was there. This is just to bring us right, and like I said, bring some best practices of what happens in other jurisdictions, and see if we can incorporate them into ours.
Can I just add one thing? You keep mentioning you can write a violation. If what we said here is not that you have to write violation, you're asking for a certificate. So no matter what you're dealing with on the building, even if it's facade, you're not looking for a violation on the fire escape.
That's how we notify our
No, I understand. But by asking for a certificate, they said I don't have one, doesn't that generate a violation?
No, it would be obligated to respond. We physically saw something. We would be obligated to write the violation and then let them respond with whatever information they have. And then if they do that in 30 days, then we would close the file.
It's the compliance end of it, that's what we're looking for. We write the violations, it could be contractual, it could be our development, and it could be our code enforcement code. We write the violation. How we get that, comply that violation is another story, and that's the process as far as procedural, what we have to do to work on. We write the violations, it's the compliance, get the certification, that's where we're lacking, so to speak, and that's what we have to work on how we get the compliance. Not just the form, like you want to show us earlier from an engineer saying, oh, we painted it, it's okay. We want to get something in the procedure that says, this is how you get the compliance, and that's what we have to work on.
If I may, here's the easiest one for you then. Sometimes it's hard for you to go out and see structural problems. And again, square head bolts, rivets indicate what? That it has or has not been maintained structurally. Has or has not been maintained. All right. But the easiest one, you can walk down any fire escape, look up, and if you see surface rust on a fire escape, what's the violation? It's a maintenance. So you don't have to find structural. You can walk up to any building, you don't have to see dangling treads, you don't have to worry about square head bolts and rivets. You look up and it's not painted, you have a maintenance violation and you can continue on your business. Don't look for trouble. There's two troubles that you find that automatically trigger a violation. The easiest one all day long that comes in your face every day is if it's brown, it's already in violation. If it's brown, that means all the connections have been violated by rust. If it's brown, it means that the fire escape connections are suspect. Who will verify that they're not suspect for you? The engineer. So, and you look up, it's brown, that's all you need. Don't look for dangling, don't look for bolts, don't look for rivets. So use the maintenance code, you know that the property maintenance code is going to property maintenance.
So there's 307.
On the 307, you write a property maintenance needs to be painted, not just painted, but just painted. It needs to be now painted and tested. So that's all you write on your violations. You got right to write on the violation too. I need your fire escape painted and tested.
We need a path to compliance is what we're looking at. Our path to compliance has to be straightened out as far as certification, and that's part of the compliance.
To keep up our safety.
System fraud.
We have
So the fire escapes are
every 3 years.
It needs to be addressed as we go inside. And those reports on the facade, legislation, the engineer goes, we expect all the facade, including fire. I do that, and they have to provide you.
Oh, you do that?
Yeah, we don't get too many of them in.
Any other questions?
Don't say I never did nothing for you.
Thank you. I'll remember this.
There's all kinds of criteria that has to be met in that program. And it's 6 stories of accumulation. So that's, so we have a 3 to 4 story building. It's going to more fall into the jurisdiction of the inspector.
And a maintenance problem. You'll look for unpainted fire escape. Look for trouble. Just walk around any building under 6 stories. Look down there and painted. No.
So I'll be presenting a seminar to BOMA probably the next month. So this is like the criteria that I, in education I got today, I'll be able to take to the building owners and let them know that they need to be addressing these also. So this is for education. So with that being said, we'd like to thank Cisco. Just a couple of public announcements. For those who did not not get their certificates of attendance, I have the list. I will generate those and move forward.
I knew you were gonna give me.
If there's individuals who do not need them, CUs, please send me an email, brett.martin@phil.gov. You can say it in the paper, and you can do that, I'd appreciate it. Two, again, this has been a presentation that has been given by the Liberty chapter. So if you appreciate this type of content, think about membership. We have a banquet this Thursday. We'd love to see everybody representing the whole population of the department, and the golf outing is on the 23rd. So thanks for your attendance. Thank you very much.
Hey, Joe, I need to talk to you tomorrow. I got the vacant property strip. Vacant property strip. Adam told me to talk to you. I see you tomorrow. And then I'm talking about him.
You never do it.
Well, see, everything.
I'll meet you at the down the back.
I'll meet you here. I don't want to lose you.
Who's this guy sitting right here? Modern? What was that?